I my hero ምክንያቱ ዒስራ ዓመት ክሪኦ ከለኹ ዝገርመኩም ገና በርሊን ማንቸስተር ሜትሮፖሊቲ ንሃገር ከዓ ዶክተር ኣርኣያ ከዓ ምስኣቶም ኮይኑ ክብሉ ሰሚዐ ይፈልጦም እንታይ ምስኣቶም ኮይኑ ሕጂ ክርዳእኒ ከሎ ግን ምስቶም ጆጋኑ ኮይኑ ምስቶም ነቶም ዓላሞም ጠጠው ዝብሉ ኮይኑ ማለት እዩ ስለዚ እንኳዕ ከም በዓል ፕሮፌሰር ኣርኣያሲ እንኳዕ ተወለዱና ስለዚህ ቀጥታ ምንም አፍሪቃት ዘይብሉ ነጊሩክን ቅድሚ ሕጂ ኣብ ዝተፈላለዩ ሚድያ ሪኢኹም ኣለኹም ቀዲሙን ኣብዚ ብዛዕባ ዝነበረ ኣብ ዲስከርሽን ዝነበረ ኩነታት ኣስፊሖም ተዛሪቦም ስለዚህ ፕሮፌሰር ኣርኣያ ደረሳት You are also my hero. I really appreciate what you are doing and moderating this class. Now, given the limited time, I will omit the introductory remarks that you said. But I just want to thank the organizers for giving me the opportunity. Hello, أجهز سمع بالله؟ بس والله hello. أو شو اللي هو ولا بدي أسمع برا ما خذي مريم بارك الله فيك مريم شايف given the limited time جاء بالكافية I will omit the introductory remarks you have prepared. But I just want to thank the organizers for giving me the opportunity to speak. Hey, it's like that when I do. No, it's like that when I do. Hello, Ajahn. Now, take a photo and make hazard. Cooperating where I love such is nice. I hope whoever is taking time, this is not to count against time. Still have time. Whatever time is okay. Okay. Given the limited time, I will omit the introductory.
ሓደ ክልተ ሰለስተ good
okay now my time is even more limited so I will omit the introductory remarks that I had prepared but I just want to thank the organizers really for giving me the opportunity to speak on a topic that's of great interest to me. The role of Eritrean intellectuals in democratizing Eritrea. By the way, my definition of an Eritrean intellectual is a person male or female, who is thoughtful, independent thinker, and who has the moral courage to speak truth to power. And to be clear, I am not referring only to Eritrean scholars and those with terminal degrees. Eritrean intellectuals can contribute to the democratization of Eritrea in many ways, as was explained by Dr. Thomas in his introductory remarks this morning. However, given the limited time I'm given, I have chosen to focus on one narrow but critically important area. The major contribution Eritrean intellectuals can make towards the democratization of Eritrea, in my view, is developing a mechanism that will make it possible for all pro-democracy, just-seeking Eritreans in the diaspora to elect legitimate global representatives, whom I will tentatively call the Eritrean National Congress, in abbreviation, the ENC. This is akin to having a government in exile, but I will not call the ENC government in exile for many reasons which I do not have time to elaborate. Having the ENC is something that we are missing, and that has hindered us up to now from making meaningful contribution to ending dictatorship and transform our country to be a multi-party democracy. I will explain the need for having the ENC, the role of the ENC, and will present for your serious consideration an election mechanism to create the ENC that is all-inclusive and democratic. The urgency of ending dictatorship. We all know how bad the situation in our country is. The Isaias regime has destroyed our people and our country for the last 30 years. The prospect of positive democratic change in Eritrea is unthinkable as long as the regime is in power. The regime has to be removed immediately as the first priority if democratic changes are to take place in Eritrea. We have to admit, pro-democracy, just-seeking Eritreans have so far been ineffective to bring about fundamental changes in our country. There is no doubt the majority of Eritreans in the diaspora are opposed to the dictatorial regime of Isaias Afwerki. But the reason why we have not made any meaningful impact so far is because we are too fragmented. At this stage, what we need to do is to unite and speak with one voice to get rid of this dictatorial system. Now, the need for the ENC. Diaspora Eritreans could have been more effective if their activities were conducted by a leadership group that has the legitimacy and the mandate to speak and represent the pro-democracy, just-seeking Eritreans in the diaspora. The chances for us to get the attention and the support of the international community, particularly the United Nations, the European Union, the African Union, etc., could have been much higher if we had a legitimately elected representatives of the pro-democracy, just-seeking Eritreans in the diaspora. Those countries that are flooded with Eritrean refugees would help us for their own best interest. But they need to know whom to deal with. I submit the chances for us to get the support of these countries is high only if we can approach them as a united body using the ENC. Any group that claims to be a legitimately representative of the pro-democracy Eritrean diaspora must be elected by all those in the diaspora who are opposed to the current regime. To this end, we need to develop an all-inclusive and democratic election process swiftly using state-of-the-art technology in order to create the ENC. In order to ensure that the legitimacy of the ENC, it is imperative that all the various groups in the opposition, namely the Eritrean political parties, civic associations, the global Yaakil movement, the Women's Association, and those who are actively working for democratic changes should agree on the mechanism to elect the ENC. Developing the mechanism, this mechanism is a challenge participants of this workshop should tackle in their respective roundtable discussions today. Such an inclusive and democratic election process will enable the ENC to justifiably claim to be a legitimate body that represents the interests of all pro-democracy Eritreans worldwide. Now, what will be the role of the ENC? The role of the ENC should, its priority should be to prepare an effective strategy in collaboration with democratic forces in the country and others to facilitate the removal of the dictatorial regime. B is to prepare a smooth transformation to a democratic rule in the aftermath of the removal of the regime. This is a topic we have been discussing this morning in our respective workshops, and I'm glad that the RPC had given the time for us to think about this, and I'm sure what has been assembled will help the ERPC to help the ANC in planning for a smooth transition. And then the third responsibility, I would think, is to prepare a transitional charter and make the necessary arrangements to transfer power to the Eritrean people. I have to admit, because of time consideration, I'm being brief, but I'm sure you understand what I'm trying to say here. Now, the mechanism of electing the ENC, that is the challenge that we have to tackle today here in this workshop. If we can agree at this workshop on a mechanism that will help us to create the ENC, I think we will have made a significant contribution. Towards this end, I would like to present the following ideas that I think will help in electing the ENC, which I hope the workshop participants will seriously discuss in the roundtable deliberations. I hope you will not be bored by the detailed step-by-step process I am presenting to help you in your deliberations. With the understanding, what I am proposing is meant to serve as a starting point for your roundtable discussions. Feel free to discard what I am proposing as long as you can come up with a better mechanism. I should hasten to point out the ideas I'm presenting are ideas that I have been working on with my colleagues at the Global Initiative to Empower Eritrean Grassroots Movement, the GI. Now, I suggest the first thing that has to be done is forming a facilitating group. The role of this facilitating group is to persuade all the various Eritrean opposition political parties, civic organizations, and activist groups to a roundtable discussion to agree on the need for the ANC, and then on a mechanism on how to create the ANC using an all-inclusive democratic process. How to form the facilitating group is the first challenge. In my view, the important criteria to consider is those who will serve as members of the facilitation group should be highly respected and influential Eritreans who will be able to persuade the various stakeholders in the Eritrean opposition to come to a round table discussion. I'm expecting there will be some good ideas and suggestions from the roundtable discussion groups on how to form the facilitation group. By the way, you may be aware of some groups who are already entertaining playing this role of the facilitating group, whom you may want to consider in your discussions. If we can have a facilitating group that can assemble representatives of opposition groups to agree on a mechanism that will allow all pro-democracy, just-seeking Eritreans to participate in the election process, that will be an important step forward. Once the facilitation group brings all opposition groups to the round table, I expect the assembled opposition groups will agree on forming a registration and election commission composed of competent and computer-savvy individuals. The charge of this registration and election commission is to design an internet-based registration system that will allow all just-seeking Eritreans in the diaspora worldwide to register, giving essential, relevant demographic data about themselves. All registered should pay a registration fee. We need the money. The amount to be decided by the Registration and Election Commission. Those who cannot afford to pay should be exempted or just pay whatever they can afford. Now, the collected demographic data is meant to help the Registration and Election Commission to ensure the elected candidates will reflect the diversity of the Eritrean people. For the registration process to be successful, all intensive publicity should be made to encourage all pro-democracy, just-seeking Eritreans worldwide to register. Those without access to the internet should have other means to register. Now, the registration process. The Election and Registration Commission should make an urgent call to all justice-seeking Eritreans in the diaspora to register for the election of the ANC. The urgent call should be made in Tigrinya, Arabic, and English, extensively advertised on all Eritrean websites, TV and radio stations, and other social media outlets to be sure that every just-seeking Eritreans in the diaspora is aware of the registration and election process. The registration process should be completed using the internet within a short period of time. For those without access to the internet, other secured registration system should be devised. The next step for the Registration and Election Commission is to appoint a nominating task force that will prepare a slate of nominees from those who are registered. Self-nomination should be allowed. The Registration and Election Commission should provide guidelines on the attributes that should be considered for nominating individuals, which would include the caliber of the individual, experience, integrity, dedication, etc. And of course, the consent to serve as a member of the ANC if elected. To help voters to have knowledge of the nominated individuals, those who are nominated should provide their resumes, which will be posted on the website of the Registration and Election Commission. Now, the election process may require a professional firm to handle the elections. Elections should be on a one man, one vote, one person, one vote basis by all those individuals who have paid their required registration fee and those who are exempted to pay the fee. Those registered should cast their votes to their favorite candidate among the nominees using the internet. IT experts should develop a secured, state-of-the-art, computer-based election system that is protected from hacking and that will not allow the unregistered from voting, and also that prevents duplicate voting. Every registered voter should be allowed to cast as many votes as the desired number of representatives, with the restriction that one can only vote once to a nominated candidate. Voting should be completed within a limited number of days to be determined by the Registration and Election Commission, and those who have received the highest number of votes will constitute the ANC. To ensure that the ANC will reasonably reflect the diversity of the Eritrean people, the Registration and Election Commission should be given a discretionary power to make sure the members of the ANC is a diverse group in terms of gender, religion, age, and ethnic identity. And this is a kind of data that will be collected during the registration process. Now, summary and conclusion. In brief, what I have tried to do in my presentation is to underscore the need for a legitimately elected global representative, the Eritrean National Congress, to enable all pro-democracy Eritreans in the diaspora to effectively contribute towards the democratization of Eritrea. I have indicated a mechanism on how to elect the ANC through internet-based, all-inclusive and democratic process. The challenge for this workshop participants is to agree on a workable mechanism that will allow all pro-democracy just-seeking Eritreans all over the world to participate in the election process. You may want to modify the mechanism I have just suggested, or you may completely discard it, what I have suggested, and come up with a better alternative, as long as it is all-inclusive, democratic, and also expeditious. Now, I know all these steps, not only probably they have bored you, but it may have even confused you. So to avoid this, I have a summary of the steps, just so that it will help you to reflect your memory of what I just said. And so with that, what I hope is that the workshop will debate on this and come up with your preferred mechanism for electing the ANC. Thank you for your attention. I'm done.
Thank you, everyone. We are at the table where the presenter is sitting, but I promise you we had to put an iron curtain between us and him, so he didn't have any input. Yeah, the first point was we did agree that we need a united voice or critical mass. Secondly, we agreed on creating awareness around the ideas or issues and the urgency of the matter. In other words, make an effective use of the mass media or social media. Thirdly, we said we should bring the existing organizations or groups if possible, the most effective ones, instead of starting from scratch. And the fourth point is a facilitating group that is neutral body or firm. It could be Eritrea itself, it could be even an international firm, but that has to be neutral, and that has to play a facilitating role, but this role should be advertised publicly, and it has to be advertised really well so people kind of recognize the mandate it is taking. The last one is we need to research on past experience on the same course, including the experience of the other political movements, be it Eritrean movements or anything global. So this is what we agreed on. Thank you.
Thank you, Hauna Tolde. Jika Hauna Solomon. زي كل خاتكم جن زي تجاربكم تلهم أبزي مسيكم لاين تجاربكم تبونيرو.
Okay, the first one is we need or we ask the intellectuals in creating a bigger organization of Eritrean intellectuals globally, starting with the Eritreans. Second, we expect to help unite and lead the different justice seekers forces in a predetermined time frame. Third, based on the facts, research a diplomatic relationship and use of media to isolate the dictatorial regime. Fourth, citing that the change will come from within Eritrea is getting slim by the day, because as you see it, all Eritrean intellectuals and the youth, either they came out from Eritrea or they are in prisons of Eritrea, and the security and the spies of the government is getting tough. So to bring change, a democratic change within the country is getting harder and harder by the day. So as an alternative, we believe the Eritrean intellectuals should play their role in researching the possibility of creating at a united national armed force to remove this present regime. And finally, number 5, research to collaborate with the regional forces around to expedite the removal of the dictatorial regime. Thank you.
يعني حاونا سلمون زيانا يمجرشا جروبيا مسلني انت زي هونه زي تزاربت له كتبلوب يغريتا هو زي مستغبرت دحرتنا فيرتشوال اونلاين كالا مالتي هو عرفت ناس مرت
اوكي جروبنا هنا already بزح تباهيلوس so it's going to sound redundant انت دقيمه تباهليو a little bit different كغبرو زغل ابزي our roles is educating, informing, and collaborative efforts. Our responsibility is to our people to inform them that our agenda is clear and that we are going to be unified. The infrastructure to develop it already, because Eritrea is coming soon. Unified within the field. Ma'at doctors allo, nurses allo, pharmacists, I start to wonder where are they capable of. So let's say within your field, create within your organization. Pharmacists tell them you create pharmacists. Now, doctors tell them doctors. Accountant. Come ugerka miskalo states kaani link تقبر مالتيو بحر كاني globally جن within your own field مالتيو كله كاني already to start to think about social welfare system which is Department of Social Service Hostel Education كاب حجي السوق انتهي يمثل كله كاني establish economic relationship with neighboring countries حجي مسكالوت African countries مس أحوات مس our co-workers كن زارو كن جمر نخيلنا Ghanaian, Nigerian, Kenyan, مس Ethiopian مس كلهم أتي economy سي انتهي يمثل بدحر relationship كلنا. Finally خا انتهي لنا إرترا within a short time of period change كمتصل سلازخونه كاب حجي بزعبا customs tourism كن حسب علنا السخاني encourage نمقبر to encourage others to come and invest custom free zone, tax free zone, invitation kahan gabarina malatu, then it will encourage other people to invest because Eritrea rich buzuh resources Allah hamigerum kalot machum investigable. But we need to start to have that dialogue hiji. So this is our group's idea. So thank you.
Agor organic shampoo and conditioner. Agor organic shampoo كابلس عكات حمر عرة شياباتر ካልኦት ብዙሓትን ተሰርሑ ኮይኑ ዝኾነ ኬሚካል የብሉን ጥቕሙ ንፀጉርኻ የብዝሑን የንውሑን ካብ ምስባር ይከላኸለሉ ኣንፀባራቒ ማለት ሻይኒ ይገብሮን መናፊት ቆርበቱን ይኸፍት እዚ ሻምፖ ብሉፅ ዝገብሮ SLS ዝበሃል ኬሚካል ስለዘይብሉ ነቲ ናይ ተፈጥሮ ዘይቲ ኣያልዮን ዶሮና ርስሓት ራሃስ ጥራዩ ዝኣሊ ምኽንያቱ ካብ ናይ ዓድና ንምገቦም ጥረ ነገራት እዩ ተሰሪሑ Agor organic conditioner ድማ ካብ አቮካዶ ሻባተር ዘይት ኣውሊዕ ዕረ ዳዕሮን ካልኦትን ተሰርሐ ኮይኑ ነቲ ፀጉርኻ ምስ ሓፀብካዮ ከም መግቢ ኮይኑ የገልግሎ ንፀጉር የብዝሖ የንውሖ ከም ምርጋፍ ይከላኸለሉ ከምኡ ውን ቆርበት ርእስኻ ተነቂጹን ፎሮፎር ተገይሩን በትናትካ ዘይቲ ከም ዝጠፍእ ይገብሮ
Thank you, Hafsin Asmarat. Hajjaha, Dr. Haptom, na virtual online zalo. This will summarize over.
Thank you. So I'm going to represent the Zoom or virtual team. We had around 30 people. It was a fun discussion and we decided to summarize it into 5 points. The first point was the need to have a group that can represent us. We've heard a lot and the name issue comes now and then, but as a team we felt that there is a need for us, a team to represent us in so many ways. As an example was, there may be a dialogue coming around our neighborhood. There may be the US, the international community, or there may be the Ethiopians and the PFDJs. So who is going to represent us? So that was one of the points that we spent more time. One of our colleagues gave an example of Tibet. They do have a commission and they do elections in exile. So I think the overwhelming understanding is that we need a team that can represent us. Number 2 was the problem with our public relations. We have an issue of messaging. We need to reach out outside our community. We only use our Eritrean language, but we don't have a lot of young generation who are born and raised here. They don't even understand what we're saying. So that is another point that as a team, we felt we need to share with you guys. Number 3 is we need to be action oriented. There are so many dialogues. There are so many sessions. There are so many workshops, but do we do follow-ups? I think that's one of the areas that we need to really work on. Number 4 is prioritization. So we've heard a lot of times today about post-PFDJ, but we still have an issue in hand that we have to deal. So as a team, the alignment that we came up with was that we need to prioritize as a short term and a long term. One of the points that the team mentioned was about this poverty. There is a lot of psychological issues, especially with our young generation. But most importantly, we need to educate our people. What is their rights and what's their responsibilities?
The last one is, as intellectuals, we need to set up an example of a unifying force within the opposition camp. Because if, you know, we are all over, but we need to be an example of unity. We need to empower our young generation because someone has to take over from us tomorrow or after tomorrow. And the last point is we need to develop or recognize leaders when we see one. And thank you. That's the points.
يأنلنا حولها دكتور هابتوم حجها قدمي نابتخال اي بروغرامنا مخادنا حونا هبوب قطامي إساياس فتصامي أقالنا بايتو USA بزح غزي سمعهم وتخوينكم ناتم قطمي حالي ملكي هاغري زبل قطمي قطم اللايمو حونا إساياس أمدخ علموه
السلام كلكم إسياس تولد بهال كاب هاريسبرغ بنسلفانيا عودت بفرس سلسلة معلتي أنا بقرأ حدا معلتي بحنسى تراخيب نابزي رب دخام دحريهم نايمان قدي مالتي بمجمريان كلكم بفلاين إيريبيس كمسكنكم فتو كم زبالة عودي غيركم كتأكبنا سلاز بقعكم يمسكنكم كل نقراتكم كأصالته له يمنه بس ترفه تمسكن كازيه مسكنك thank you I got Ami you call me off the guard حالي ملك هاجري تبل عملت صحفتيا نساهم ببالكم فقد لي قرب من صبراق الرئلو سو تعقسني حالي ملكي هاجري رهوا خطري مسجدل حليفكي برهان كخون كقنطت سلامكي زرنا كسعمو ناي ولد بركي سنايكي بهيجس هاجري حالي ملكي حزبنا هاجروم حديقوم زوصو نفاريد كحزو تكيتهم كقرصو ريئيوم نخلوم نعدوم كمصو فلطتهم كفسسو هاجروم كهانصو صريخي معبلكي غدناخي عم بيبو أبايتي تهانيصو غرماخي وكيبو أميته سمايكي دبنا سريبو أزمرا كوين الكس كل سب عجيبو كوصوري يومنا حزب خنغز برت وريدو دقخي تكي أموت الراس عدك هنصو حزوم مارتلو مسمغاز هاجرنا كوينا عدلو المسل ماس بهيقلكي عدي سنايك بزيحو حزب خغسينو بحاجوس تدبسكي سقايكي بنينو فتاو تحاقويسو أبايكي حزينو طريقكن حزبخن بمعرة سسينو عبيتي خصعقو كوچچو قلعو قلايكي مليئو عصبو باصعو عساتات بتحتي سبكي زبانو قليعو وننتو رغيبوس بحرخي وسيعو حونت سريتكي مسرحو قربيت حوين عندكيو برت ود برت مريت كتلمعي وسيخي كطميت نرواندا سعيبكي كتكوني أبنت تربحي تكون كيناي بعلخ معدن حرشاخي تتكيو بزمناوي ماشن نفسخي خيلكس كتحجزي سؤن ترأيني عدي فرياتكي كسسن تمني لك حزبي مرة صبابان هلكيتن حليفكا صليم كدان بصعدا خدان تكيكا مسجدل سجيركاس برهان ولعكا تمسجن فطاري عداوكا زرقحكا ازيو عدي تزمنيو انا زحلمو من يمون قدس حساب زحرمو انترفو دمنياخي كتو يلن زقاومو حبرت مسنفتر يلن زين عمو إسياس تولده عدا يكوتا بايتو ياكل رات من ساتان وكا يغني
حاونا إساس مقعتول ده حقيقة عمي كابتن كامتن لعلي موفز غبراني قتمين حالي ملكة هاغري بيغا كي هاغري موخا اب رياليتيز وعلو غزي قريب يحواتي اري مسحوا مسوم مسارحتيسي اتينا اينا ኤሪትራ 2021 ኢና ዝብል ዘለና መን ኣሎ ምሳይ ዝብል ኣቲና ኢና ስለዚህ ናብቲ ዝቅፅል መደብና ክንከይድ ኢና እቲ ዝቅፅል መደብና ሓውና ኑረዲን ምሳና ኣሎ ኣብዚ ኣቀዲሙ ምናልባት ካብቶም ናቱ ግሩፕ ኣቢሉ ክነግረና ዝፀንሐ እዩ ሓደ ክልተ ሰዓት ኣብዚ መድረክ መፅኢ ኣሎ ማለት እዩ ስለዚህ ሓውና ኑረዲን ነቶም ዘይትፈልጥዎ ሓውና ኑረዲን ካብ ኣስመራ ኣብ መንደፈራ ተወሊዱ ማለት እዩ ኣብ ናይ ፖለቲካል ሳይንስ ዲግሪ ኣብ ቦሎኛ ተመሪቑ ማለት እዩ ካብኡ ከዓ ቀፂሉ ከዓ ናይ ኤምቢኤ ሪሰንትሊ ከዓ ኤምቢኤ ማስተርስ ኦፍ ቢዝነስ ኣድሚኒስትሬሽን ኣቢሉ ኣሎ ኣብዚ ዝተፈላለዩ መዳያት ኣብዚ ናይ ፍትሒ ቃልሲ ከዓ ካብ ዓዲ ጀሚሩ ብዙሕ ተቃሊሱ ኣብዚ ከዓ መፂኡ ኣሎ ንሱ እውን ዝያዳ ክነግረና ክእል እዩ ብዛዕባኡ ስለዚ ሕጂ ግዜ ናይ ግዜ ሕፅረት ስለ ዘለና ንሓውና ኑረዲን ናብ መድረክ ዕድሞ እየ ሓውናና ኑረዲን
እንደገና ሰላም ብለኩም ክንደ ጊዜ መላለሳለሁ ዝወደኸ ይትብሉኒ ክንደ ሻዕ ከመዓልኩም ኣሎ ገለ ብልቦታትና ከምኡ ከይከውን ቅድም ንሓደ ናተይ ግሩፕ ወኪለ ዛረብ ነይረ ሕጂ ግን እታ ተዋህባትና ሓላፍነት ከቕርብ በታ ዝኽእለተይ ከቕርባ እየ ማለት እዩ ስለዚ 15 ደቂቕ ተዋሂቡኒ ዘሎ እቲ ኣርእስቲ ግን ሰፊሕ እዩ ግን ዝተኻለ መጠን ክሕፁረ እየ ስለዚህ መጀመሪያ በእንግሊዝ ከዛረበ ዳሕራይ ግን ሓፂረ ክትርጉመ Okay, I would like to thank and appreciate ERIP's organizers for their effort to make this great event happen. Also, I would like to thank to all participants and speakers who are here Before I start my assigned topic, I would like to go back for about 3 minutes. For the last 60 years until now, what do the Eritrean intellectuals contribute? The last 6 years, I was 10 years when I heard a radio from Egypt, spoken by Abona Wadawul Demariam and Dr. Safi Imam Musa. This is in the 60s. In Eritrea, نمناقح بزعبا مجزاتي بزعبا فدريشن بزعبا كله كما يقولون زفرسو راديو برخا وزي قرنديك تبار راديو نراتندي كاوت تسمع عني هاجراو سمعي تسقى حجز الله. سلازي 6 عامت يقبر أحواتنا إرثاويان intellectuals راديو قرب نهزبيك نا حكم زنبورو زخجل دلي. السوتراي زي كوني is be organized government. They were organizing people, media, media, radio, and distributing pamphlets, organizing people, writing articles about Eritrean oppression, petitions to UN and other interest group, organizing demonstrations. All this was done by Eritrean intellectuals starting 60 years ago. Then, not only that, they were joining the armed struggle. A lot or many Eritrean intellectuals have joined our armed struggle, and they sacrificed their only life. They sacrificed it for us during the Eritrean liberation, during the Eritrean Liberation Front. After the independence, the Eritrean intellectuals, they are running the rebuilding. We have Eritrean intellectuals in Eritrea, even though the regime is dictator, the regime is cabal, but they still work for the Eritrean rebuilding in different fields. So we have to recognize these people inside Eritrea, these intellectuals. Now, I will speak about what can Eritrean intellectuals contribute now to rebuild communities, to rebuild, to integrate with communities, to do all they have to do for the political, social, and economic change in Eritrea. They can do a lot, but I will just point out few, because previous intellectuals, they sacrificed their lives for us. Nowadays, intellectuals, we are many in number. We have a lot of experience. We run different companies, different governments, and we are professors of different universities. So we are many in number, and we can do a lot. So I will just summarize like this. We can do a lot. But the first thing we can do is establishing institutions. Like this institution is one of them. Institutions are very important for Eritrea, for now and for the next future government. Establishing professional associations. Professionals should be united or organized under association. Establishing investors. We have to start to establish investors because Eritrea needs a lot of investors. Establishing human rights associations is very important, human rights associations. I remember 1990s after independence, we have a brother here, Dr. Petros Baatai. He established a human rights institution in Eritrea, but the government closed it. The government closed it. I wish if that human rights institution was run until now. My main topic is serving diaspora Eritreans to build strong communities. Our intellectuals can do a lot to serve Eritrean diaspora to build strong communities. We have many refugees. We have many youth or students or underage. They come from Eritrea. They need help. So Eritrean intellectuals, we have a lot of work to do. We have to help these people to be organized and to be organized. Organized, and then another one that I would like to see from intellectual, I would like that intellectual Eritreans contribute for effective relief works. Effective relief works to help Eritrean people inside and other refugee camps in neighboring countries. we have to do a relief work because our people need relief work in Eritrea. Inside Eritrea and in the refugee camps in Ethiopia, in Sudan, everything. The last one that I would like to see is establish Eritrean communities, organized workshops and seminars among Eritrean communities on how to establish social justice, political justice, and economic justice in Eritrea. The last one, or the two last I will say, is leadership training. We have to train leadership from now. Leadership training. We need good leaders to run Eritrea. Eritrea is coming. So we need training for leaders. And then the last one is prioritize our vision or mission or activities. We have to prioritize. ቀዳምነት ክንቦ ደለና ነገራት ቀዳምነት ሂብና ሰራሕ ኣለና ንኹሉ እዚ ብሓንሳእ ክንሰርሖ ይንኽእል ኢና ግን ተን ኣድላይ ደበላ ቀዳምነት ኣይኖት ኢልና ሓንፂፅና ክንሰርሕ ይላቦ እዚኣታ ዓቕመይ ዝኽእላ ሰላማት
Our group here, my name is Awat. I am a professor at Queen's University in Canada. Where is Awat and where is Isas? I came all the way from the north and I'm still presenting and standing. Yes, I drove. Our group here would like to first thank Nuruddin for recognizing the role of Eritrean intellectuals across our modern history. So thank you, Nuruddin. The first item that the group then discussed was what intellectuals are, what do they do, and are we expecting too much from them? Are we asking the wrong thing of the wrong people? So leading is not really what intellectuals do, is some of the things that were aired. Intellectuals are more the behind the screen thinkers. Intellectuals are the researchers, those who bring ideas, who bring different experiences from different parts of the world so that leaders are better informed and can lead better. Having said that, we recognize that intellectuals can help articulate Eritrean national interests according to priorities of the moment. Two, they can lead by example on harmonizing and or unifying projects on their respective areas of expertise. Intellectuals can nurture the younger generation in our respective communities, reward them for what they do, and pass on to them positive values. Intellectuals should recognize religious leaders as intellectuals also. And this group discussed of how before this modern intellectualism that we claim to be, our religious leaders were our intellectuals who decoded the metaphysical and wider physical world to our people and translated our values to the outside world or interceded on our behalf with the gods. So having recognized these religious leaders as intellectuals also, we could call on all of them to play harmonizing roles and build trust in our communities. And individually, intellectuals perhaps could seek each other out across diverse lines. An important question, for example, that was raised in our group was, how many friends do we have or people that we regularly communicate with who are from a different ethnicity, a different religious community, or a different region? So perhaps we can seek each other out across these divisions, across these barriers, and build bridges in such a way that they can be projected toward our community and broadened. With that, I thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Awat. ታትመጽ ዘላ ግሩፕ ካ እጂ
By the way, my name is Tashome. So I'm representing a group that we have a question: what contributions can Eritrean intellectuals make in building trust and cohesiveness among Eritrean communities? And we come up with these 5 points. Number one is educate people what leadership means. So we have to educate our people that leadership means is always accountability, responsibility, and transparency. So we shouldn't, in order to build our society trust, we have to educate this. Leadership means these 3 key points. Number 2 is develop listening capacity, validate and address people's concern and needs. So we should be able to listen to our society. So we have to be able to educate our people that our people should be listeners. So this is one point. And number 3 is promote constitution and national identity as a guiding factor for now and future generation. Number 4, encourage open communication, accept and respect diverse opinion. So it's okay to have a different opinion. Actually, our group believes that it's not always to think group thinking. When we say that unity is as a big picture, but we have a different organization, different thinking, so we have to be able to respect. And it's okay, if it is a political organization, it's okay to have different opinion. The last one is building a strong institution. So in order to have a trust in our society, it is okay whether Mr. X, Y, Z comes. If we have a strong institution, the society has to, they have to believe on a strong institution. And the last one is accepting that the society is being betrayed. So we have to acknowledge that our society is already betrayed by the previous regime. So once we accept that, or when we accept that, we can build a trust to our society, and then we can educate them on building a strong institution. Thank you.
Thank you, Hauna, Dr. Teshome. Jihatat Metzala Group.
Okay. ሽመይ ሳምሶን በሃል ካብ ሜሪላንድ ግሩፕ ናተይ ወኪለ መጽ ካብቲ እቲ question address ዝገበርናዮ what contributions can Eritrean intellectuals make in building trust and cohesiveness among Eritrean communities? ሓሙሽተ points ጌርና ኣለና ተቐዳሚቲ እቲ ቋንቋ ናይ ስርዓት ኢሳያስ ጥቀመሉ ቶታሊ ክንቀይሮ ንክእል ኣለና ቋንቋ ስጋብ ሕጂ ኩላና እንጥቀመሉ ዘለና ወይ ቮካብላሪ ሌክሲንከን ዝበሃል ናይ ስርዓት ህግደፍ እሱ ከዓ ፈላላይን ጎጃጃልን ስለዝኾነ እቲ ሲስተም ክቕየር ኣለዎ እቲ ሲስተም ቋንቋና ናብቲ ሩትስ ክንክእል ኣለና ካብዚ ክንጅምር ኣለና እቲ ካልኣይ ዝበልናዮ intellectuals, they should fight back. Gab hiji فرحنا إلى نيرنا كاب حجن يوجن we should fight back. إتي قبل علينا زلوا mistrust up to community مالتي كم ناس برجوا وكم حدا تبلاتي إذا قلت نزي كنقالو سون كلالنا نزي كنقالو سون دحر كوينا خا كن وسن كنكلالنا وسنتي كنكون كلالنا كم example دحر يهمو أبزي ناي حجست جبر ناي حوعد إتهم هفتما زبالو كم بعل صادقان مهورا زبالو after بايتا خيدهم وسينهم يقالو سلو يعني خا كنقالس fight back نجبر إتنا هنا بوتان after community كنام تصون كلالنا إتي خالد research نجبر علينا سعادة خبتي وركتو نجبر زلنا we do have to do deep zone assessment. Aina factors him, Taina ishium, ነቲ ህዝብና ከፋፊሎሞ ዘለዉ we don't know ኩሉ ኣብ ሓንጎሉ ነናቱ ኤርትራ ሲኢሉ ኣሎ ስለዚ ኩሉ ተኸፋፊሉ ኣሎ ስለዚ ኣየናይቲ ፋክተርስ ገሊኡ ፋክተርስ ፖለቲካሊ ዲፋይን ክትገብሮ ትኽእል ኢኻ ገሊኡ ፋክተርስ ከዓኒ ጭቃ ፈላላይን ሕማቕን ንዕኡ ከዓ ከተልግሶ ክትክእል ኣለካ ስለዚ ዲፕ ዝኾነ መጽናዕቲ ብፍላይ ኣብዚ ውሽጢ ኣብዚ ደገ ዘለና ማለት እዩ እቲ ውሽጢ ዘሎ ናይ ባዕሉ ዳይናሚክስ ኣሎ ኣብዚ ዘለና ግን ከነጽንዖ ክንክእል ኣለና ነዚ ድማኒ ክኢላታት ኣለዉ ብፍላይ እዚ ኢንስቲትዩሽን ትካል እዚ ሓደ ካብቲ ክገብሮ ዘሎ ስራሕ በኋላ ያኒ ተኻልእ ስጋብ ሕጂ ኣብቲ ባይታ ወሪድና ዝገበርናዮ ስራሕ የለን ኣብቲ ኮሚኒቲ ስጋብ ሕጂ ስጋብ ዝቐረባ እዋን ኮሚኒቲስ ብህግደፍ እየን ተዓብሊለን ወይ ዶሚኔትድ ኮይነን ግን ኣብቲ ኮሚኒቲ ከይድና ሰርቭ ክንገብር ክንክእል ኣለና ኣብኡ ሰርቭ ምስ ገበርና ኢና ሽዑ ቢልድ ትራስት ክንገብር ንኽእል እቶም ኮሚኒቲ ይፈልጡና እንታይ ዓይነት ከም ዝኾንና እንታይ ዓይነት ኢንቴግሪቲ ከም ዘለና እንታይ ዓይነት ኣበርክቶ ከም ዘለና ይፈልጡና ንደቆም ድሕር ኣምሂርናሎም ከም ሜንተርሺፕ ሮል ሞዴል እንድሕር ኮይና ኣብ ኢሚግሬሽን ኣብ ሬፊጂስ እንድሕር ሓጊዝናዮም ኣብ ፋይናንሻል ሪል ስቴት እንድሕር ሓጊዝናዮም ኣብ ስራሕ ኣብ ምውሃብ እንድሕር ሓጊዝናዮም ፈሊጦሙና ኣለዎ ማለት እዩ ድሕር ፈሊጦሙና ትራስት እንድሕር ኣልዮም ክሰምዑና እዮም ድሕር ሰሚዖሙና እቲ ንዛረቦ ኣብ ፖለቲካ ነገር ኩሉ ሓንጎፋ ኢሎም ክቕበልዎ እዮም ተኻልእ ዝብሎ ዲስካስ ዝገበርናዮ እቲ ስጋብ ሕጂ ቅድሚ ናፅነት እቲ ሓንቲ ጎል ነይራሃና ኤርትራ ናፃ ንምውፃእ ኩሉ ከዓ ኣብ ጎኒ ተሰሊፉ ማለት እዩ ኢሳያስ ኣምፃ ዋላ ጉጅልዋ የምፃ ናፅነት ኤርትራ ኩሉ ኣብ ወፃኢ ዘለዋ ኣዴታት ናይ ዓዲ ጥልያን ፈዳይን ናይ ኣስመራ ሓረስቶት ናይ ሃይላንደርስ ኣብ ኤርትራ ዘለው ኖማድስ ሎውላንደርስ ኩሎም ተሓባቢሮም እዮም ኣምፅዮማ ናይ ህዝቢ ኤርትራ እያ ናፅነት ነዚ ነይሩ እቲ ዕላማ ድሕሪ ናፅነት ክንታይ ዕላማና ሓደ ዝኾነ ቲም ቫልዩ ከነቐምጥ ክንክእል ኣለና እቲ ቫልዩ ከዓኒ ኣብ ሂማን ራይትስ ኣብ ዲግኒቲ ናይቲ ሰብ the pursuit of happiness ተመርኪሱ ናፅነት ናይ ወዲ ሰብ ሓልዩ ዝኸይድ ቫልዩ ክህሉ ኣሎ ነዚኣ ቫልዩ እዚኣ ብምሉእ ዝቕበላ ሓንጎፋ ኢሉ ሙስሊም ኣይ ነታ ቫልዩ እዚኣ ይድግፋ ሎውላንደርስ ነታ ቫልዩ እዚኣ ዝድግፋ ሃይላንደርስ ነታ ቫልዩ እዚኣ ኣብ ሓንቲ ቫልዩ ከም ሃገራውያን ዘቑመና ድማ ከምፃና ዝኽእል ቲም ወይ ቫልዩ ከ ኣይደንቲፋይ ክንገብር ንክእል ኣለና ባለ ሶሪ ንውሒልኩም ይቕኒለ